Welcome back to a brand new video of From the Shed End with myself, T.Dot. As always, thank you very much for joining me. Now, before we get into the content, as always, please go and subscribe to the channel and let me know your thoughts in the comments as well. And make sure you give the video a like, a thumbs up before you leave. Now, we had a pre-season game against Aston Villa yesterday. Seems mad saying a pre-season game in the middle of December, but it is what it is in the midst of a World Cup. Abu Dhabi was the location. Some people I've spoken to were very upset with the performance for obvious reasons in terms of injuries, which we'll get onto shortly. But I thought the performance overall was very good. I thought there was, we have to put a bit of context into the discussion, because obviously Villa came out very strong with their squad. It was almost a very experienced squad. They had Ashley Young, Ezri Konsa, Tyrone Mings, Luca Dino, John McGinn, Kamara, Douglas Luiz, Ollie Watkins, Leon Bailey. I mean, they had a relatively good, strong squad out that they would potentially play in the Premier League. You do have to then put the context into place for Chelsea. A lot of the players, are either returning back from the World Cup in terms of England players and so of some other nations. But there are some players at Chelsea, Hakim Ziyech being one of them, who's still at the World Cup at the moment. So we wasn't able to field, for me, the best squad that we would have. We played what we had available to us at the time. And I was impressed with some of the players. I'm going to be honest. I thought Lewis Hall, who, if you've been watching Chelsea over the last couple of months, he's got an opportunity right now for a place in this second half of the season, in my opinion. He played very well the game just before the World Cup against Manchester City in the Carabao Cup. Very good performance by him. I think he had two really good chances in that game against Manchester City as well, and was unable to take both of them. But still, positive signs from Lewis Hall. I was impressed, especially with Amari Hutchinson, who I thought, people speak about Amari Hutchinson before he came to the club. He was a player that was once signed by Arsenal. He's a talent. He's a massive talent. He wasn't scared to take on plays. He was almost, making things very difficult for Luca Dino on that side of the pitch. And, he had really good opportunities in the game. Defensively, I think we were very shaky at times, which is to be expected with the players that we had available to us. Although, to give them their credit, I do think that Josh Brooking and Humphreys were players that would potentially be playing in the development squad at the Premier League 2 level. It's a massive step up for them. And, we're talking about a game which has been non-competitive football for a lot of these players for a couple of weeks now as well. To then come into this game, there's a lot of caveats you have to put into that before you start criticizing the performance. Marco Correa, a lot of people said he was at fault for the goal that was scored by John McGinn. I do think he's out of position. He's drawn out of the position that he should be in for the goal. But, I think I'm not too fussed about the result. I'm happy with the performance of individuals in that game. I thought Marcus Bettinelli was a brilliant goalkeeper for us in that game. He's made some really good shots, saved some more egg on our face, to say the least. Some of the performances and throughout the game that he gave us. So I think we have to credit him. The downside to the game, of course, Armando Broja, who picked up what looked like a very serious injury, which has been echoed by the manager, Graham Potter, to say that it doesn't look good at all for Armando Broja. Potentially could be out for the rest of the season. If you watch the game live, you'll have heard the screams, you would have heard the pain, you would have heard, the agony that was coming from Broja. It didn't look good at the time. It reminded me very much of Ronaldo at Inter Milan. Very similar knee injury by the looks of it, and it was almost, those injuries when there's no real impact from Ezri Konsa, really, there's nothing that you would think would say that it was a bad tackle or it was a lunge from Konsa. It was more of a coming together of both the players, and you can see that Broja's knee almost gets trapped underneath his body slightly. It doesn't really move as it should out of whether I don't know if his studs get caught in the grass or whatever it was, but it was a bad injury. 100% we're not seeing Broja for the rest of this season, but it does now question who and how we go about our transfer activity in the next couple of weeks, because you look at our number 9 options. Kai Havertz, yes, can play there. Aubameyang, who didn't really play well yesterday. Again, let's be honest, he hasn't filled me with joy since he's come to the club. Yes, he scored a couple of goals when he started, but since those goals, he hasn't really performed at the level that I think we need him to. There's going to be obviously conversation, I think, now about Ronaldo coming into the team, which I don't really want to talk about the World Cup, but his World Cup performances tell me that he's ready for a new start somewhere else, away from the Premier League. In my opinion, I don't think he's got the ability to play in the Premier League, and I wouldn't want to see him at Chelsea. I think we need to stick to the plan, stick to recruiting the players. Endrick is one of those players that we were heavily linked with, who now looks like he's going to Real Madrid. But we need to stick to the whole project, which is why we've got Graham Potter in, which is why Bowley's, allowed Potter to bring in all these backroom staff that he wanted to bring in as well, and that alongside what Todd Bowley wants to do. We need to stick to the plan, and I don't think Ronaldo fits into that plan at all, in my opinion. So it's a nasty injury for Broja. Hopefully it's not a career ending, because there's those sort of injuries are very hard to come back from. If it's an ACL, if it's a knee ligament, you do worry when you see a player go down with that much pain and agony. It didn't look good at all for him. So speedy recovery, hopefully for Armando Broja, but it does limit who we can play going into those forward roles. A lot of competitive football. We've still got the Champions League to think about as well when we come back. This is a massive moment, I think, for Chelsea Football Club. Now we have to get this right. We have to do it at all costs to try and get top 4 next season or this season. But I think we will have to go into the transfer market. We will have to do something, because we can't allow ourselves to drop into that hole of being the mid-table team or just missing out on top 4 minimum this season. Still, in my opinion, and this is at a push, has to be top 4, a top 4 finish, and we're going to need strikers to do that. We're going to need a goal scorer. I feel for Broja, because I feel like he's the only player, especially even in the game before the injury yesterday, who was attacking from the front, was pressing. A lot of the players were pressing with more aggression throughout the game as well, using those wide areas of the pitch a lot more than we've probably seen under Graham Potter previously. So I was impressed with some of the performances, but you do feel that injury to Broja means that we will have to go into the transfer market and bring someone in. I'm not sure who that will be, but time will tell. I'm sure there's going to be conversations between owner, manager, and recruitment staff as well over the next couple of days, assessing what they can do with the injury to Broja. I do want to talk quickly about England. I know this is the Chelsea channel, but I do want to talk about England's performance against France. Obviously, ex-Chelsea player Olivier Giroud went and scored the goal that ended all England hopes. But I think, overall, you have to give France their credit because they won. People are saying that Southgate needs to leave. I do feel like he's done enough with this squad. A final, semi-final, quarter-final, and no trophy to show for it. You do have to feel for the likes of Mason Mount, who didn't really get much football over there in Qatar. Obviously, Reece James, I think, would have been a brilliant player to play in that game if he was not injured. So, those players will be linking up, back with the squad now. So, as I said before, there's a lot of players that we can see coming back into that fold. Credit to Hakim Ziyech, who's still there. Christian Pulisic, who had a really good World Cup as well. The likes of Mendy and Koulibaly, they'll be linking back up with the squad, I think, in the next couple of days, trying to get ready for Bournemouth in just under 2 weeks. But the only transfer news I really want to talk about just before we wrap up is Moukoko, who seems to be the player that we are in advanced talks for now at the moment. A very young talent, very good player. If we can get that over the line, I think we need to obviously strengthen in other areas. I think we still need to look at the left side as well. I think, you look at Ben Chilwell, Marco Correa, who potentially is now being played as a centre-back quite often in the Premier League games as well. So I think we need to have a lot of depth. I think we need to definitely look at a number 9, but, Moukoko coming in is a really good player, really good addition. Obviously, we've missed out on Endrick, who looks like he's going to Real Madrid. I think there was obviously a lot of conversation with the youngster who wouldn't be able to sign for us until 2024 anyway, which is, you know, kind of something that we need players right now. We don't need them in a year or so. And I think having the projects that I can see Todd Bowley and Graham Potter trying to work towards, those two signings would have been brilliant for us. You know, there's still talk about Jude Bellingham coming into the squad as well, maybe Declan Rice. I mean, we're going to be linked with a lot of players, but I think what we need to do and not do what we've done last time is literally go out for anybody and everyone. I think we need to have a clear plan, a structured plan of transfer activity and strategy, and go out for the players that we need. And we need to try and bring some. I mean, now crucially, I mean, before the World Cup, we were talking a lot about, you know, does Mendy need to be sold? I still think that's a yes. I don't think that will happen at this point in the season. I think it'll be in the summer. But you do look at the likes of, as I said before, Broja, Aubameyang, not really looking like he's going to score goals in this second half of the season. We need to bring in a striker. And whether that's an Ivan Toney or someone of that caliber who we know is experienced in the Premier League, we've got to bring in a striker now. For me, that is the biggest thing we need now, is a striker. I think Broja would have got his chances in the Premier League. As I said, a massive congested fixture list coming up from now until the end of the season. I think April sticks out in my mind as being one of the most busiest parts of the season. So I think we've got a lot of work to do on and off the field. I think the performance against Villa, I can take some positives because it wasn't the full squad. There was a lot of players missing, but there's still, you can tell, a lot of work to do. Yeah, and literally just I'm recording. So Conor Gallagher, Mason Mount, Raheem Sterling are all expected to return back to the squad later this week. But just in terms of the performance, going back to that against Villa, there's a lot that we need to do. We haven't looked clinical under Graham Potter. Maybe against AC Milan in the San Siro, it's the only game that I can really say that we looked very confident in. But, you know, some Chelsea fans have written this season off. I'm still hopeful for top four at a minimum. You know, the silverware looks like it's filtering out now because obviously Manchester City in the FA Cup as well is going to be a difficult game. But let's try and be positive. I'm going to be a positive fan for the next couple of months until the season is done. I'm not going to try and do the negative stuff that I was doing before. I'm going to be positive. So if you're positive like me, make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit the like button. Let me know your thoughts in the comments as well. There's going to be a lot of talk about Ronaldo potentially being signed by Todd Bowley, a fan favourite of Ronaldo. I hope it doesn't happen, but let me know your thoughts in the comments. Who would you like to see us sign in replacement of Armando Broja? And also let me know your thoughts about going into the second half of the season. This has been T.Dot. Thank you very much for watching. Until next time, stay safe, and I'll be back with another video before Christmas is here, hopefully. So stay safe in that snow and the cold weather. Thanks for watching.